Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Inside Thrustmaster Esports. We are changing gears today. We're moving away from the world of sim racing and heading to the world of Apex Legends. Now, our guest today is someone who is well known within the Apex Legends scene. He is someone who has been there since day one, really, and there's, of course, anyone else apart from Sineska. He is someone who is a co-founder of Element6 Esports, and like I say, has a really good understanding of what it takes to be not only a competitive player in Apex Legends, but also as a coach. I'm really excited for this episode, mainly because I'm rubbish at Battle Royale games, so I'm hoping we'll learn a few things. But also it will give you at home some insight into what it takes to potentially get onto the team of an Apex Legends roster, or even if you're wanting to go into coaching yourself. So Sineska, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing good. Yeah. How are you doing?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. Doing very well. So the question that I like to start with for everybody really who comes on this podcast is, tell me a little bit about your background into gaming, in particularly with regards to why Apex Legends. It seems like such a challenging game to get involved with, but what was it about Apex that kind of spiked your esports career?
Well, I'm someone that people nowadays call boomer. So I started with Counter-Strike 1.5 back then, where people played in, they call it here internet cafe, like where 20 people sitting next to each other playing video games. I started a lot of games like World of Warcraft, Diablo, etc. And at one point, I stopped playing like completely, full focus on my job back then. I was head of operations of a startup company, which grew up really quickly. And then everything around COVID happened. And I basically lost my job and started playing Apex. That's how I got into Apex.
Amazing. And yeah, I mean, I talking to Counter-Strike, so I picked up Counter-Strike for the first time during COVID, and it was, the skill level was insane. The guys
that's
who've
late
been playing it. Very late. But what I'm seeing is even there's kind of a similarity in terms of the type of game. There's obviously very objective focused type of gameplay there. Is there something in particular about Apex Counter-Strike that you like in particular? Why this kind of game, I suppose?
First of all, Apex is a FPS game as well. It's, I forgot to mention it, by the way. A friend tried to convince me all the time to play Apex. He said it's so nice, the movement and it's fast. It's like the thing you like. And I was like, okay, but I'm working. And then I forgot to mention it. And then when COVID happened, I was like, okay, why not give it a try? And the thing what I like about Apex is just, it's fast. It has different characters. You can play it. It's not like Counter-Strike. Like Counter-Strike sometimes looks very stale, right? You have always the same maps. Starting points are always the same. And when I play Counter-Strike nowadays, the character, everything feels so slow. Sometimes you're holding a corner all the time and wait for the enemy to come. And in Apex it's it's fast. It's movement based as well.
No, definitely. I mean, I know we spoke about this before we recorded this episode. I've played PUBG. That's kind of my experience with Battle Royale games. And I think it's an interesting dynamic, particularly from a team play perspective, because you are so reliant on your team doing just as well as you can. I know you're talking about how you sometimes carry and kind of scrims your teammates, which is always great, but it's such an important team dynamic. I mean, as someone who has entered into the competitive scene as a player, and if anyone looks up your results, there's a lot of first places on your Wikipedia page, which is cool. How did you go about finding kind of people to play with? Was it just friends growing up, or was it seeking out other professionals? How did that kind of work?
So as I mentioned earlier, my real life friends kept asking me to play, right? And a lot of people have that issue that your in real life friends are not on your skill level, right? So what I did at the beginning was basically always playing with them, but over the time I got better and better, and they couldn't keep up, I'm not the typical casual player. If I start something, I always try to be the best at it. And at one point I realized they're holding me back, I was like, guys, I met someone else recently. I would like to play with them, and they were kind of on my skill level. And over the time you get to know each other, like other players, maybe pro players as well. But I think it's like in every other game where it's really hard to get in touch with these pros, right? So at the beginning, I was watching streams. One of my favorite players was Shiv FPS. Like, he's not a pro player, right? But I was looking up to him. He was funny and like a really, really skilled player, right? So yeah, you have to build. What also a lot of people don't understand is you have to build your own yourself, basically, right? You can't just start a game, even if you're good. You can't just sit up pro players and act like, yo, bro, I'm good, play with me. So so you look for people that are looking for players in Discords, and start playing with them and build up your own like name, right? You kill them in ranked, and then they realize, bro, this guy's always killing me. Who is that guy? Who is that guy? That's how you start, basically, with ranked in Apex. And
amazing. No, it's it's really similar. And I think in the racing world, the people who are winning a lot of the races get picked up by the big teams. They do, people recognize who they are. Something that you said there, which I found was really interesting. And obviously, I know, like you said, with your experience with your startup, now with, the stuff you do in crypto, you're someone who likes to spend a lot of time and attention on projects and really commit to them. When you were picking up Apex and getting up to speed, obviously you're a gamer by heart, so you kind of were probably quite quick to adapt. But were you training in a different way, or were you playing the game differently to your friends? I know they were obviously more casual, but were you kind of looking at it more from how does this, this weapon perform better than this one? Why is this hero better than this one? Like, how was your approach to getting to speed with Apex?
So one good example was like watching streams, right? Like watching better players or people who are bring out content on YouTube, right? And then I started watching YouTube videos, and then there's like a lot of videos where people explain, if you play this character, you have to focus on that and that and that, and then you start researching, basically watching streams, guides. I think this is like kind of normal for almost every game, right? So, and then obviously I also played way more, and there's something called firing range, also where you basically practice your aim. So I was sitting in the firing range almost 7 hours a day.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's so cool. And on the topic of firing range, again, I know we were talking about this off air, but when I went to watch the Apex Legends playoffs, I was kind of observing how some teams are keyboard and mouse, some are controller. From my side, I found that, because I used to play a lot of Halo on console, when I moved over to PC and it was on PC, the players who were using keyboard and mouse were just like dominating the lobbies, and the people who were on controller were kind of falling behind. Same problem in Apex, or would you say there's a preference as a player in terms of which route to go down?
Well, I would say this is one of the most controversial topics in Apex. People are you can go on Twitter, say controller is, or like, let's say MNK is stronger than controller, and everyone will shit talk in the comments. Like this crazy topic. It might be a hot take, but I personally think both inputs have their pros and cons. I think in a lot of scenarios, MNK is better than controller. It's always, I personally, like, I'm talking about my team, how I built my team is, I want to have like an MNK player as an IGL, that's what we have, and 2 controller players who are just fragging out. Reason behind that is obviously aim assist. Aim assist helps you killing people, right? And the advantage for the MNK is our IGL has like more freedom in the movement. He's just reacting quicker on stuff, so basically it helps leading the way, in my opinion.
No, definitely, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when I was watching the players who were using MNK, the amount of flexibility in terms of, their movements, their, changing weapons, even the in-game comms, it was amazing just how much quicker they could react. And when I think about, the control you have with a mouse versus a joystick, it kind of makes sense, right, that you have that flexibility. So completely understand it's a bit controversial, but I guess the tip is if you want to get recognized by Sineska, then be sure to play on MNK, really. But in terms of, the training as a player, how do you kind of structure, or even as a coach, really, how do you structure your training sessions for your team? What would like a typical training session look like for your team?
It always depends, I think, on our weaknesses. obviously we are playing a lot of scrims, but scrims and ranked are not the only thing that a player should play. I think if you realize you're weak on your aim, then you go in the firing range. There's also a lot of different tools you can use and practice your aim. That's what we do as well. But there's also something like the IGL, for example. He has to do a lot of work with the coach together outside of the game. So basically thinking about rotations in the game, right? Well, like playable areas. There's a lot of like out of game practice.
No, that's amazing.
Our controller players, what we tell them is always just play the game. Play the game, spam games, practice your aim, because that's what we need them to do, frag out.
Oh, amazing. So you kind of have a different role for each kind of member of the team, depending on how they play. That's so interesting. That's really cool. So the next topic I want to talk about is obviously the kind of mentality of players. You obviously had KS and Slayer involved in the team for 2 years, formed a really great relationship within the Apex scene. And I imagine as a coach, is obviously a dream scenario. You have people who are spending so much time together. As a coach, is that something that you kind of look for in a team, is how players work together, not only in a competitive level, but on a personal level as well?
I mean, it always helps, right? Like if the players, for example, Slayers and KS did a lot out of the game, played other games together. It always helps, but I see it a little bit different as well. Like it's like work-based, right? Like if you work somewhere, you can't be friends with everyone. You just have to be professional. If this answers the question.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think for me, what's really interesting is obviously I know you had Graceful, for example, who's come and go. I guess what I'm saying is in the Apex scene, compared to other game types that people maybe don't realize, is that in Apex, people move quite a bit, and it's quite a dynamic kind of field for player transfers. I guess as a coach, how are you planning for your upcoming talent? Are you looking to kind of people who are rising through the ranks? Do you look to people in other teams to try and bring them over? What's your kind of approach for finding the next best talent, I suppose?
Yeah, since I'm a coach that also plays a lot, I know a lot of players, right? So it's easier for me to find new talent. Obviously, sometimes it can be people from a different team that we have to poach, Sometimes it's just a small, like a guy who no one knows, but he's fucking insane at the game. So as a coach, you have to have your eyes open. You can't just do like be in your own little, how do you say it in English?
Like your own bubble, I suppose.
Yeah, your own bubble, and just keep going. Like, that's not how it works. What I do as well is like, I see people who are actually insane at the game, and I'm like trying them out. I'm looking at them. I'm even playing against them in the firing range 1v1s.
Wow.
It takes a lot of time to find the right player.
No, definitely. And I guess as a coach, then how much of your time is kind of balanced between, let's say, playing, looking for new talent, maybe, looking at rotations, this kind of stuff? Like, what does a typical day for someone like you look like?
That's a good question. Recently, I'm not playing as much, and now a new character came out. And as a coach, if I don't play this character myself, I don't know the in and outs.
Legend.
So playing yourself is good, but most of my time goes into watching the boys play on stream, and then that's what I do.
Nice. And how much of that as well do you like watch? Because obviously with Apex, right, you've got a lot of teams competing at the same time. Are you ever watching back some of their previous matches to see how they play, what their rotations are like? Like, do you do much research on your competitors
100%,
as well?
Yeah. Basically, most of your time goes into watching streams. So with that, I mean, not only watching my team, also other teams. You have to understand what they do in order to know what you can do, If, as an example, we're rotating through a specific area and we need to know the timings of other teams. When are they passing? Do we have teams behind us? Can we just chill and, without thinking about people ambushing us, basically? Yeah, that's that's important to
No,
know.
yeah, definitely. I think for maybe people who don't follow battle royale games is that, you know, you essentially have kind of these circles that you're chasing, right? And these kind of zones to play into. So it's not like on a racetrack where someone's either behind you or in front of you. They can literally be in 360 degrees, right? And I guess even that as a, you know, as a coach, how are you kind of teaching the guys to make sure that they're kind of aware of this stuff? Are you giving them scenarios where they're having to react to certain angles, or how do you kind of teach them to be aware of these kind of ambushes and stuff that could come up?
I'm kind of lucky with my IGL. He's like putting in a lot of work. He loves watching like the rotations. So
yeah.
he is like, that's a crazy thing about him, by the way. Like he is even more experienced than me in the competitive scene. So the thing is, he's visualizing everything in his head, basically. Like you have to imagine like a map and then see in your head, like with the timing, where the teams are rotating, right? And then he obviously knows, like, okay, here we can get ambushed. Be careful. Obviously, sometimes things happen in a different way than expected. And then it's like about the awareness of every single member in the team.
Amazing. No, I think that's really interesting. And I think for me, that's one of the key takeaways from this is being able to visualize kind of the map. Although you're playing the map, being able to, like you say, visualize it from, you know, further away, what's happening. I think that's so important for people to realize, because it can, like you say, kind of give you preparation for every scenario. The next topic that I kind of want to cover is around Apex. Like I say, obviously you've had the privilege of being a very good coach and a very good player. What's your opinion on the current state of Apex? Is it in a good place? Is it in a not so good place? What's your current opinion of it?
That's a tough question.
No pressure.
So, since ranked is like the most played game mode, it's a little bit sad what like happened to the game recently. I feel like a lot of things that should have fixed don't get fixed fast enough. It takes the devs too much time. Just an example, at the moment, there is something called zone healer. These are just guys playing a specific character, staying like outside the zone for like ages while all the other teams are fighting, right? And then just staying in the zone and heal forever, they can reach like the second place for free. Just for like, yeah. Last season, for example, we had one. He reached rank 3 worldwide just by, like, he didn't even shoot his gun, you know? And I think this is something that should, like, it should get fixed instantly. I don't understand why this is a thing, you know? And yeah, stuff like this happens quite often. Another example is there's the map called Olympus. And on this map, it's possible to go under the map with a glitch, right? And then this guy just stays under the map the whole game until he reaches first or second place.
I was going to ask, so on that, you know, using the healer glitch or you know, that character as an example, do you have to then teach or coach your team about being aware of this, or maybe not using this, but, you know, like, how do you react as a team to when something like that comes up? Because like you say, if you're waiting some time for the developers to fix it, but meantime you're having to play competitive matches, what approach do you have to take there to kind of deal with this?
Well, the good thing in competitive doesn't happen. Like, that's just strength. Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, cool. And the next question, or the topic that I wanted to cover as well, is obviously for people who are up and coming players. There are still people who are maybe, you know, somewhat competitive and looking to take the next step up, or people who are, like you say, really competitive but don't know how to kind of break into the competitive scene and be made kind of aware of who they are. What words of wisdom would you kind of offer to that player who, let's say, who is really good but is struggling to kind of take that next step in their career?
Right. Obviously, like, the most common answer is always just play the game, you know, just play the game. But obviously there's more to it, right? As an upcoming player, for me, it happens a lot that I get like spammed in my DMs with people just saying, yo, try me out, you know? But it's obviously hard when like hundreds of messages always come into my inbox, and then I can't try out all of them, you know? You obviously have to build a name first. And how you can do that is by starting the LFG Discords I mentioned earlier. You know, you have to go through, I personally went through thousands of people until I found my team back then, you know? It took me, as I said, like in 1 year to find people that are actually like, how do you say it? Have hands, they are able to play the game. Yeah. And if you play with people and realize they're shit, if you think it makes sense to work with them together and improve, keep doing that. If you think it's not possible, and drop them and look for the next team, or next player. Like, don't waste your time if you want to reach something competitively.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important if you are someone who is, spending 5, 6, 7 hours a day practicing, but your teammates are only spending 1 or 2, then you're right. Like, naturally, there's going to be that difference, and it's important to find people who are on your level. I guess for someone like yourself as well, I mean, when we think about your playing career, and then we'll come on to coaching after, but what was your kind of highlight as a player in your playing career that you've had so far?
I think the very first tournament I've won back then with my with my first team. Yeah, the first tournament that we won was it's called GLL Cup, and the funny story about that is back then our name was different. We called ourselves 69 IQ. We were like, we
Nice.
didn't even think about the name, and it was like just a stupid name. And the funny thing is, we won this tournament also with 69 points. So, yeah, that's one of my highlights.
Amazing. And just going back to that tournament, I mean, what was your? I appreciate it was maybe a bit of time ago, but what was your kind of mentality going into, a tournament of this nature? Because it's completely different, right? You've suddenly got, whether it's a lot more people watching the broadcast, there's people just generally watching the gameplay. What was your kind of preparation for that? Like, can you talk me to how it was for you?
You mean like mental preparation, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or do you mean warm up?
We can dive into both. Let's talk about both.
Well, as far as I can remember, we just like warmed up together as a 3-man, played rank before. Yeah, it was nothing serious. Yeah, we knew we were a strong team.
Yeah.
There was actually no anxiety, no hustle, nothing.
Look at that. That's how you know you're a professional. No nerves, just get on, get the job done. That's so cool.
Exactly.
And
we had nothing to lose, At the beginning, if you're a no-name, like I was a no-name back then, you have nothing to lose. Like, why would you be afraid of doing mistakes?
Nice. No, I like that. It's a really good approach. And I guess as a coach, then obviously, Element have had some great results over the few the years that they've been running. What would be your kind of highlight there from a coaching side?
So many. Too many.
Okay, let's do it this way. What would be the biggest, not the worst moment, but what's the biggest lesson you had as a coach that maybe people didn't realize?
When, like, for example, when we make it to LAN, and then if you don't make it to the finals, as a coach, you can't just, how can I say that? Sit in the corner and cry. You have a team you need to take care of. As a coach, you're also at the same time the team manager. So you have to be like the rock, yeah. Take care of the boys, basically, or the team, There's like
I guess
a tough thing to learn. Like, you can't have any like tears. You have to take care of the team,
Definitely. I was wondering, I guess that is probably the most difficult part, right? Is that, obviously the players are the ones in the match making the decisions and then kind of winning and losing. But ultimately, a lot of it does come back to, as a coach, how you prepare them, how they prepare with you. I mean, I guess, in some ways you carry a lot of the blame when stuff goes wrong and maybe not as much of the winnings when it goes right. Would you say that's kind of a fair assessment?
In our team, not. Like, I can imagine that for other teams it happens, but we are not blame shifting. If something goes wrong, we fucked up as a team. If we are successful, we win as we're successful as a team.
Nice. I like that. I think that's obviously super important, isn't it? Because you win and lose together as a team. And I guess for, again, a player who's up and coming, it's important, I guess, from your side that someone has that mentality when you're kind of reviewing them for a slot on your team or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah. So, me as a coach, obviously, I'm not in the, how do you call it? Sorry, sometimes I'm missing words. In the spotlight. Yeah, sometimes you're not like, you're obviously not in the spotlight, right? So if they win, you only see their faces, right? And fair enough. I mean, that's okay for me, you know. I don't have a problem with that. Sorry.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
I think you
so
can.
in terms of looking towards the future as well, obviously you've had some great successes. The team Element6 is doing amazing things. You've been very active on socials. People can follow you there and kind of see what you're up to. But talk to me a little bit about what the future looks like for you, be that as a player, as a coach. What can people expect over the next, say, 12 months, for example?
Good questions. Yeah, there's something barely anyone knows except the team. So me being the coach was actually not planned from the very beginning. I see myself in a different role. But the thing is, we didn't find the right fit for the coach role. So yeah, for the time being, I'm the coach. But in the future, we're going to look for someone who can replace me, so I can take care of the management roles within E6.
No, that's amazing. The crowds are amazing that you guys draw. You know, I've never seen anything like it. People chanting players' names, teams' names. It must be so difficult to stay focused when you have just all the noise around you as well, right?
No, that helps. That helps. Like whenever I saw the boys in a bad mood, the only thing I did in the background was like to the fans like this, right? And then they started chanting, and it was insane. Like our fans, I don't know, whether they're the best in Apex.
Amazing. No, that's so cool. It's honestly, it for me really sent home how much the esports professionals are professionals. You know, they're treated like kind of celebrities in some ways. You know, people shouting for them, cheering for them, and like you say, the fans for your team, it makes a big difference clearly as well. So it's really, really cool to see. Obviously, we've covered what your future looks like for the next 12 months or so. I'm sure there's maybe some more news to come at a later date. But in terms of the team, how's the team looking for the next 12 months as well? What can people look forward to?
I think the team is getting stronger and stronger with every change. So there's something I can be really proud of. Obviously, we're sad that sometimes people are leaving, people are getting poached. We have to drop people sometimes, But overall, the great thing about E6 is the team is getting stronger and stronger every time. Like not only because the management is putting a lot of time in the team, but also because we know nowadays. Also, I'm learning what we need in the team to be successful. Obviously, we did a lot of mistakes. And learn from them. So.
Amazing. Well, obviously, this is the Inside Thrustmaster Esports podcast, so it would be wrong if we didn't talk about them at some point. I have waited until the end, so it's not forgotten about. Talk to me a little bit about obviously Thrustmaster's involvement with E6, how that came about, and what it's like having someone like themselves involved.
Thrustmaster is probably the first real sponsor and the best thing that could happen to E6. First of all, the controller I have even here, I don't know. Hashtag ad. I think it's the best one I've used so far. And the people behind Thrustmaster is just amazing. Last time we had a boot camp in, how do you pronounce it again? Rennes?
Yeah.
Where the headquarters is of Thrustmaster. And the things they did for us is fucking amazing. It's crazy. We had a streaming room for all three with I wish I could show pictures right now, but it's just amazing. I don't know if you can just put them in maybe, or people can Google them, but you could also see them in our vlogs and stuff and Twitter. I don't know. The feeling there was insane.
Nice. Amazing. Although I guess what we really need for Thrustmaster, be sure you're listening, is we need a keyboard and mouse because, as we've heard, that's better than controller. So in terms
I didn't say that, by the way. I didn't say it's better. I said for specific roles, MNK is better. But overall, controller is very strong, and the everything shifts towards controller.
When you have a brand that is involved as a sponsor, as a team, you kind of have to do more stuff, whether that's social content or interview or stuff. Do you find that helps the players get more comfortable across all aspects of their playing career as well?
Yeah, I don't think it affects them, like not negatively, not positively. So it's just there are things we need to do, right? And for example, KS is very like experienced already, so he has no issues with social media in general.
Nice. No, that's cool. That's really cool. I think it's so important that when, like you say, when people are doing that, it doesn't take away from their performance and hopefully adds to just give them more experience and exposure as well.
Well,
as we move
definitely,
towards the end of this,
sorry
to go. Yeah.
In terms of exposure, obviously, like for example, as I said, we were in the Thrustmaster bootcamp, right?
Yeah.
Like stuff we did there, all the interviews helped us a lot, like especially on social media, right? The fans want to see stuff like that, and if the room looks amazing, like the Thrustmaster one, then it generates more more attention as well, right? So yeah, it helps a lot.
Definitely. If people want to follow along, obviously Element6 are on all good socials: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Sineska, what about yourself? What about your personal channels that people can follow as well?
I mainly use Twitter, so my main social media channel is basically Twitter/X or whatever called nowadays.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for the episode today. I really appreciate the time. I think it's been so interesting to learn, not only as a player, but as a coach, kind of what some of the key important things are when it's you trying to make this your professional career. It's been amazing to learn about some of your highlights as well, some of the not so easy parts about being a coach that people maybe don't realize. And obviously a few, piece of advice as well for people looking to just get a bit more competitive. Sineska, thank you so much for the time today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you too.